Hey Daddy, I just wanted to share with you this interesting little tidbit that happened this week. We had forgotten to turn on the porch lights before we left for church, and when we came back, Mama couldn't see her keys, so she was fidgeting around with them and trying to get into the house, and I was jumping around because there was cobwebs on my knees. Um, and when Mama flipped on the light when she got into the house, we saw this big old scorpion that was walking around where we were standing. And so Mama told me to get the tongs, and so we caught it in this big old glass jar. And now we have a new pet until she dies. Um, but her name's Delilah. We figured out that she was a girl because I looked up all this stuff online, and apparently if she has little fins on her belly, and if the fins are long, then it means it's a boy, and if the fins are shorter, then it's a girl. But she's a girl, and she's really, really fat, and I took her into school today, and Miss Stewart ended up taking it away. She's all like, we don't bring poisonous insects to school, and especially not in glass jars. So my scorpion had to sit at the back of the room for the majority of today until I went home. And at the end of the day, when we went to pick it up, Miss Stewart told us that the smaller ones are more venomous than the larger ones. So that's pretty good because she's pretty big. She's about 2 inches, and I'm not sure what kind of scorpion she is. But here, so that you can see her. She's really big. Hopefully she doesn't try to crawl up the glass. But there she is. We tried to feed her some crickets, and she ate one of their heads, and she just left the rest of it there. But if you look, you can see the cricket carcasses all around the edges of the glass. And there she is. We were so happy that neither of us got stung. And yeah, she's really big. So, here. Oh, she's trying to crawl up. She wants to eat you. Or meet you, whichever one. So. Yeah, she's trying to crawl up. So. That was Delilah. We got her name from the Bible story, because Delilah's cutting off her hair, or his hair, and she has little claws and they look like scissors. So, on Facebook, Mama put it up. We had the jar on the floor, and Mistress was batting at it and trying to play with it, because I guess she thought it was a snack for her or something. But, it's really cute. She's all, oh, it's a scorpion! And it's kind of funny. So, but she has that on Facebook and a couple other pictures. And there's one where I have it up to my face. And it was like, there's a scorpion. But, so, I just wanted to show you that. We really miss you, Daddy, and we love you, and we're praying for you. We just really miss you. We hope you come home soon, Daddy. I love you. Mwah. God bless you, Daddy. Oh no, I almost forgot. Here is chapter 3 of Courageous. Okay, hope you like it, Daddy. Love you. Bye. Mwah. Monday morning, Adam entered the kitchen at 7:10 and reached for the nearly full pot of French roast. The problem with morning is that it comes before my first cup of coffee. Sundays were supposed to be restful. Adam knew, but yesterday had been tense. When Dylan didn't want to attend church, Adam had to insist, and Dylan pouted through Sunday dinner. Adam came down hard, so Victoria objected. Adam told her that Dylan needed to grow up and stop sulking when life didn't go his way. Victoria was convinced that Dylan and Emily had heard their loud exchange. A frigid wind blew through the Mitchell household all that night. Victoria sat at the kitchen table, sipping her own morning coffee. Her weak smile told him that she was still unhappy, but probably wouldn't come after him with a steak knife. He ate a quick piece of toast and a bowl of Wheaties. then went through to the living room and paid his habitual homage to Steve Bartowski. Steve was ageless. He demanded nothing of Adam and reminded him of his childhood fantasies. Back then, Adam had dreamed of becoming a football player or an astronaut. As he pulled out of the driveway, he thought of all the boys who'd dreamed of becoming cops and were now businessmen. Maybe when they saw him, they imagined that Adam was living the dream. Yeah, right. A cop's life wasn't easy, so why did being a husband and a father seem far tougher? The unusual buzz of conversation filled the muster room at the sheriff's office, punctuated by laughter as the deputies shared their favorite stories they'd rehashed many times while they waited for their shift to begin. The room was a white cinder block box crammed with 14 fake wood folding tables in 2 rows, a narrow aisle between them, and a podium in front. No one could mistake it for an executive boardroom. Still, the stark walls and camaraderie were a familiar solace, and when Adam entered the muster room, he felt more at home than he'd felt with his family yesterday. Adam and Shane sat next to each other on the uncomfortable black stacking chairs as they had for the last 13 years. Styrofoam coffee cups, notepads, and pens in front of them. Ahead to their left sat 23-year-old David Thompson, fresh-faced and looking like a grad student playing cop. 10 other deputies, 8 men and 2 women, sat around them, 2 per table. Adam turned to Shane. "Hey, I'm grilling steaks on Saturday. What are you going to do about it?" "I'm going to come over and eat one." "Maybe 2. "That's what I'm talking about." He leaned forward. "David, you've got no life. Why don't you come over too?" "I've got a life." "Yeah? What are you doing this weekend?" Well, it depends on whether..." "Right. See you Saturday." Adam and Shane laughed. David smiled sheepishly. Sergeant Murphy, a stocky, savvy veteran, began roll call. "Okay, let's get started. First, Deputy David Thompson has survived his rookie year." Applause broke out. Adam raised a hand for a high five. David grinned in embarrassment and raised his hands to acknowledge the praise. "You know what that means," Shane says. "Now you can start using real bullets." Everyone laughed. Meanwhile, a uniformed officer walked in the door, recognized only by Adam and Shane. "Now, I want to introduce you to Deputy Thompson's new partner, Nathan Hayes. He's joining our shift. He has 8 years' experience with the Fulton County Sheriff's Department in Atlanta. But he grew up here in Albany. Let's welcome him." The cops clapped for Hayes. He waved and sat in the empty chair next to David. He extended a hand to him. "Unfortunately, Deputy Hayes has already had a run-in with a couple of our gang members. I'm sure you've heard the story. I don't know about the policy in Atlanta, but in Albany, we recommend staying inside the vehicles in the highway. I'll try to remember that. We have 2 new warrants today, Clyde and Jamar Holloman, 2 frequent flyers who opened up a drug operation on the 600th block of Sheffield. I'd like both warrant teams to handle this one. Everyone else stick to your normal beats. Now, the sheriff has something he wants to tell us this morning. Sheriff?" A tall, sandy-haired man in uniform entered the room. From his haircut down, he looked like a Marine, because he was one. His steely blue eyes seemed tired. Sheriff Brandon Gentry rarely made appearances in the muster room, so the deputies knew this must be important. "An email came across my desk I'd like to share with you. A recent study was done on the increase of violent gang activity. It says almost every case has something in common: runaways, dropouts, kids on drugs, and teens in prison." Sheriff Gentry paused and checked the printout. The attribute they share is that most of them came from fatherless homes. That makes kids growing up without dads our worst problem, and the source of 1,000 other problems. The study shows that when a father is absent, kids are 5 times more likely to commit suicide, 10 times more likely to abuse drugs, 14 times more likely to commit rape, and 20 times more likely to go to prison. He eyed the deputies before he continued. The study ends by saying, As fathers check out in increasing numbers, these percentages continue to rise, with escalating gang violence and crime. The sheriff lowered the paper. So maybe you're thinking, why tell us since by the time we face it on the streets, it's usually too late? The answer is what we've told you 100 times. The divorce rate for cops is high. I know your shift work is hard, but the bottom line is, when you clock out, go home and love your families. All right, you're dismissed. Get out of here. The sheriff strode out, and the deputies rose. Go home and love your families, Sergeant Brad Bronson snorted, addressing Sergeant Murphy. In the old days, they just told us, round up the bad guys and do your job. Yeah, and most of us were getting divorces then, including you and I. The sheriff's just trying to look out for the men. You might want to show some more respect. He's all hat and no cattle, Bronson said to Murphy, way too loudly. He's been living on high cotton way too long. Adam sized up Brad Bronson, a piece of work if there ever was one. 6.5 feet tall and over 300 pounds of non-strategically distributed weight. He was saggy-fleshed, a giant marshmallow in pants, but still managed to intimidate. The hair that once grew on his huge billiard ball head had been rerouted into his ears. His forehead was gray of smudged newsprint, some veins permanently broken from his history of head-butting uncooperative perps. Thick-throated and chinless, Bronson smelled of cigar smoke, and the sergeant believed too stupid to live was a valid jury verdict. Shane whispered to Adam, There's a lot of gravity in this world, but Bronson uses more than his share. Well, boys, Bronson said with a growl, I'll keep the streets safe while you take the ladies to the ballet. Where are you headed today, Sarge? Adam asked. The toughest part of town? Course, the toughest part of town is wherever I happen to be standing. Even now, Bronson gave Adam his 100-yard stare that would have made Clint Eastwood in his prime melt like a salted slug. He cleared his throat, sounding like he was mixing cement. Bronson acted tough, but Adam sensed more beneath the surface. In the 12 years Adam had known him, Bronson had been through 2 wives and had 4 children between them. Bronson constantly caused headaches for his superiors. He'd earned the particular ire of the public information officer who'd repeatedly lectured him on his public demeanor and disdain for the media. As deputies made small talk on their way out, several shook hands with Nathan. Hold on, Shane told Adam. He went to talk with Riley Cooper. Adam approached Cooper's partner, Jeff Henson, 40 feet away, standing by his patrol car. Now, a 56-year-old veteran, Jeff had made a career of breaking in rookies as he'd done with Adam 17 years earlier. Last year, after their youngest son's graduation, Jeff's wife Emma filed for divorce and moved to California to live near the older children and grandchildren. Jeff's jaw was still chiseled, but his cheeks were fleshier and his blue eyes that used to flash bright were dimmer now. Adam reached out his hand. Jeff shook it, his grip looser than before. How are you, Jeff? He shrugged. Can't complain. Wouldn't do any good if I did. His once booming voice seemed now as weak as his handshake. Though he smiled, it appeared pasted on. How's Jeff Jr.? Still alive, I guess. He hasn't spoken to me for a year. He and his sister side with their mother. Brent's at college now. Hasn't been back. I'm sorry, Jeff. That's life. How's the stomach? Sometimes it's okay, other times it feels like it happened yesterday. It happened 14 years ago, when Jeff and Adam confronted a shoplifter fleeing a store. Jeff tackled him on the sidewalk, and the guy buried a blade deep into Jeff's stomach. It pierced his small intestine. He'd had 2 surgeries and unending therapy, but things hadn't been right since. Time was supposed to heal Jeff, but it didn't. It just made him older. Some cops stayed fresh, many became shop-worn. Jeff put in his time now, doing his job with less passion. He had another younger partner, Riley Cooper, who was eager as Adam had been. But Jeff didn't appear the energetic mentor anymore. He had so much to offer, yet he no longer seemed to offer it. Sadly, Adam thought, That wasn't just Riley's loss, but Jeff's. Whether it had been the ongoing pain or trauma of the stabbing, the Jeff that Adam had known years ago, the one that he knew now weren't the same guy. At first, Emma had been the model cop's wife, standing by her man, trying to help him, but he wouldn't let her. One day, 13 years ago, Adam went to pick up Jeff at his house. Before Adam got to the door, it opened. Jeff came out in a fury and slammed it behind him. Emma called out the window, "Stop blaming your family! We're not the ones that stuck that knife in you!" Adam had never forgotten that awkward moment. Neither had Jeff, though he never let on. Jeff peered at Adam as if through a fog. "Your family okay?" "Yeah, the usual stuff, but we're fine." Jeff nodded to Adam. They seemed like two old men on the front porch, rocking their chairs, saying "yes, sir" to each other with nothing to talk about. He thought of inviting Jeff fishing or to a ball game, but if they couldn't keep a conversation going for 5 minutes, why shoot for hours? Ready to go, Adam," Shane called as Riley Cooper, sunglasses donned on of full strength and youthful enthusiasm. He approached Jeff's car. "Later, Jeff," Adam said. "Later." As Adam walked towards Shane in his car, he thought about the sheriff's encouragement to leave his work behind him when his shift was over. How many times had he been told that? 100? How many times had he actually done it? Half a dozen? Now Adam Mitchell had to serve the arrest warrants on a couple of those fatherless young men the sheriff talked about, and if he wasn't careful, they would make Adam's kids fatherless too. 17-year-old Derek Freeman made his way from the train tracks towards Washington and Roosevelt. Tall and slender, he was dressed in a purple plaid shirt with a black Volcom tee underneath. He had long black denim shorts. He approached an abandoned warehouse, cell phone to his ear. "I can't do that right now, Grandma. I'll be home later." His jaw clenched. "I don't know when. I'm going to take care of that later. Bye." "I said bye." He crammed the phone into his pocket and peered into the shadowy building. Big Antoine, TJ's right-hand man, spoke out of a dark corner. "Hey man, why you talking to your grandma like that?" Derek squinted. He saw Antoine leaning against a concrete pillar, wearing a camo do-rag and a closely trimmed goatee. Dressed in an army shirt, torn off sleeves emphasizing his bulging muscles. He slowly and deliberately skinned an apple. "I'm tired of her nagging me. I'm gonna do what I want to do, man." "Ain't she taking care of you?" "She's working all the time. I take care of myself." The way Antoine used the knife on the apple made Derek's nerve endings crawl. He wondered if someone with that same kind of knife had put the 2 scars on Antoine's right cheek. "So you ain't got nobody?" "Well, little wannabe, you better be sure you want to do this. This ain't no game, man." Derek took a few steps closer, his eyes still on the rotating knife scalping the apple. "Tell TJ I want in. I'm ready." "You think you ready? TJ's gonna check you out. Watch out, man. TJ's a beast." Derek hesitated, then blurted out, "Is it true that Waterhouse kid died when he was jumped in?" Antoine stared. "Got a little rough. Stuff happens. That kid was weak. TJ don't mess around. He's gonna make you prove yourself." Derek sucked in air and stuck out his chest, and tried to deepen his voice. "Then I'll just have to prove myself." "Good. Just remember I warned you."
We were made to be courageous. We were made to lead the way. We could be the generation that finally breaks the chains. We were made to be courageous.